Hello everyone, Zellerant here, and for today's video on Arknights Endfield, we're going to be talking a little bit about the cash shop in the game, because I know a lot of people like to spend a little bit of money on their gacha games, and so whenever a game launches, I try and take a look at the gacha game, or the gacha cash shop, and see what's going to be like your best value in comparison to just buying like the pull currency directly. Now, in this game, they have a lot of different currencies that can be very, very confusing. I'm going to try and break down the main ones relating to pulls and how much you're spending per pull, because it can be very, very confusing when you kind of get into the bundles. I will say one thing is there's really not that much in terms of bundles. So you have like their first couple initial ones, and then you're just outright buying the premium currency. So there's really not much to it. And with that, we'll just go ahead and get right into it. So the main premium currency, now you will get some of this stuff when farming as well, are these little the gold aura geometries, or however you call them. And these you can convert into the Ouroboros, which are the currency you use to pull for operators. Or if you're gonna, if you really want to pull for weapons, you can convert them into the arsenal tickets for the weapon banner. And so one of those gold ones is 25 arsenal tickets. And if you convert it to the operator ones, one is 75. And just know that it's 500 per pull of Ouroboros for operators. And on arsenal tickets, it's 2,000. Okay, so to get that out of the way, now we're going to go ahead. Now, for most people, when it comes to pulling, you're going to want to pull operators. And the reason you're going to want to pull operators is as you pull the operators, you actually will get the arsenal currency from pulling operators. You get 20 per 3-star or 4-star, you get 200 per 5-star, and 2,000 per 6-star. And depending on your luck, over time you'll accumulate about half. On average, you will accumulate about half a full pity for a weapon. So if you think about it this way, about every other operator that you pull, or main operator you pull, you will be able to guarantee their weapon. And that's kind of my advice on that. So we're going to look at this from a pull standpoint on operators. I'll quickly go over arsenal tickets as well, but I would probably never want to convert these to arsenals unless you're a full-on whale, because operators are really where it's going to be at, since you're getting the arsenal tickets off pulling for them anyway. Now, just like your typical gacha games, they do have some bundles, and I always like to compare the bundles to their cost of getting this premium currency that you can convert to the pulls. And they have, like you see in every gacha game, the first time purchase is a double. And you're always going to have your best value on the top one, and that is the one that I always use to kind of get a baseline price of their currency. And so right off the bat, you will get 194 times 2, which is going to give you 388 of these, which then if you times that by 75, that's going to give you 29,000 of the Ouroboros. And if you divide that by 500, which is how much a pull costs, you are going to get 58 pulls. For $70 on that first time purchase, you will get 58 pulls, which then just a little bit over, 58.2 to be exact. But we're going to round it down. Now we'll take the $70 divided by the 58 pulls, and so you're paying about $1.20 per pull on this, which is what I think you typically see with most gachas on the double up. Now, after you do that, it goes down to this. And so I've already bought this one. Now it's 194 plus 48. So now this is where I would say is the true cost. Because once you buy all these, if you're even a medium spender, these are going to be your best deals. You're going to pretty much always buy these. And so if you're wanting to now spend a little bit more, this is going to be what I would consider the true cost, as this is what you're going to have to basically pay once you have no longer any more bundles to buy. That'll be 194 plus 48, which brings it up to 242 times the 75 that it converts to, which is 18,150 Ouroboros. Divide that by 500, which is 500 per pull. So this is now gone down from 58 on the double down to 36 pulls. And so 36.3 pulls. So you take that $70, divide it by that 36, and you're getting to just under $2, $1.92 per pull. And so that is the true cost. And so that's what I look at when it goes to the bundles on whether or not they're going to be worth it. $1.92. And some of these you can do the math very quickly. There's not much in terms of bundles, so we can go through these fairly quick. You have the first one, which is a banner specific one. And so this one is, and I'm going to guess we'll have these for every single new character that comes out. It's a 10 pull that is not a limited pull. It's a Firewalker's trail pull, which means this one has to be used on the current banner. And so if you're pulling for her, of course, this is a good deal on that aspect because it's $15 for 10, which is basically $1.50 a pull, which is now cheaper than your baseline. So this one is $1.50 per pull on that. Now it is a 10 pull that you have to use there, so you're not going to be able to buy this every time and start stockpiling pulls. A lot of gotchas, they just have your generic limited pull where I can go in here, buy these, but not pull on the banner and just save them and do that every single banner. You cannot do it with these. These are tied to this one. So just make sure you remember that if you're not pulling for her, do not buy this. Then you have the protocol flow. This one's a little tricky because it's got a mix of arsenal tickets and charted HH ones. These are the generic ones you can stockpile and continuously save. Now, I'm going to guess this resets like every main patch, which is 48 days. So this is going to be not that often. Plus, I never really take into consideration the extra materials that are for like upgrading your characters and stuff. If you care about that, you can kind of put that into your calculation. But I always go based off the pulls. So you're getting 10 pulls for the operators at $30. So this is actually $3 per operator pull. But you are getting a 10 pull on the Arsenal banner as well. And so we just do the quick math on that. You get 25 Arsenal tickets per one of these. And it's like half the value on it in terms of it only costing 2,000 to do a 10 pull versus 5,000. So just a little under half the value. And so if you want to say this one's $3 a pull, this one is basically a single 10 pull. I'm rounding up. It's technically $19.80. They've probably done some math that makes it where you have to spend a little bit more to get a pull off this one. They always do that in gotchas. But, so if we take it at that, a single 10 pull at half the value of this, you can kind of almost convert this to being like 5 of these pulls. So it's like $2 per pull on this one. So this one is actually, in my opinion, you have to take it based on what you value the Arsenal tickets. But because I'm saying it's about half the value of the operator pulls in that respect, I would say it's basically about $2 per pull value on it. So I would actually say it's lower value than this for most, but you are getting these on top of it, which is why I basically bought it in that respect. And if you're in the situation I was in, which is, and some people might be in this situation, if you're actually lucky on the operator banner, I pulled her fairly early. You won't have enough Arsenal tickets to buy get their weapon if you want to get their weapon. And that is where something like this can come into value, just to top off your Arsenal tickets to finish off a banner you can't pity if you're spending. And so that's the main reason I got that one. And you can say the same thing with their Arsenal banner. I can't see the original one because it got replaced, but there was one that was a 90% discount. They always use these percentages to kind of, so it said 90%, and I think it was $15 instead of $16.99. This one's a 2K one for basically half the cost of that one. This one, if you're in that situation, is going to be your best deal in terms of getting the Arsenal tickets to finish off a banner, because it's basically like the equivalent of $1.50 per pull if you equated it to the operators. And that's pretty much it on what they have here. You have the monthly pass. Yeah, I should have mentioned this right off the bat. The monthly pass, always the first thing, buy the monthly pass. It's always, in every gacha game, the best deal. I always feel like it's your main subscription. If you want to play the game as like a main gacha game, this is what you buy. This is you saying that it's like buying access to the game, in my opinion, like World of Warcraft or anything. As this is what's going to really help you top up to be able to pull a new character like every month and a half or whatever the rate's going to be, versus having to really grind them out and it taking like 2-3 months to get a guarantee. And so you'll be getting basically a pull, like 15 pulls a month plus the instant, like 2 pulls that this is giving, or just under 2 pulls. So you have that, and that's pretty much it from there. It's pretty much these after that. There's not much in terms of bundles that have, like, they don't have a crap ton like you see with a lot of games. But it can be very confusing when you're pulling for these, though. So just be very careful in that respect. And yeah, just kind of view it as $1.92 per pull when you are buying pulls. That's the best way to look at it after you buy all the double ups and equate it to that. I expect we might get some other ones in the future. We'll have to see if they ever add any more. Now, you might see these, like, I don't know if I mentioned it. I never buy the material ones. You can grind these in-game. Don't spend money on these. Pulls are where it's at. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. You have your typical other shops as well, but these are from after doing pulls. You get the currencies that you can convert into pulls here. So these aren't really... now, this one's the whale shop. This is after you've, I think, maxed out something on dupes. You start getting this currency so you can outright buy the weapons. So you're never going to be able to buy from that shop. But that's it for the cash shop. It's kind of confusing, but it is fairly straightforward, in my opinion. And we'll have to see how they go about it, if they add anything else in the future. But that's it for now in the cash shop. And if you like my content, if you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.